There are three types of chosen ones you need to identify: the half moon, the one, and the two on the hands. These signs are not random marks carved into skin by coincidence. They are symbols, quiet signatures of destiny, whispers written on the body long before the mind understands their meaning. The first is the half moon. This sign often appears as a crescent shape on the palm or beneath the fingers. Those who carry the half moon are deeply intuitive souls. They are sensitive to unseen currents. They feel shifts in energy before events unfold. Since childhood, they may have felt different, more observant, more inward, more aware. The half-moon chosen one walks between logic and mystery. They are guided not only by thought, but by instinct. Dreams speak to them. Silence restores them. They often rise spiritually later in life, when experience matures their insight into wisdom. The second is the one, a single strong vertical line or marking that stands out clearly on the hand. This is the mark of the initiator. The one carries leadership energy, even if they never seek attention. Their path is rarely easy. Challenges shape them early. Rejection strengthens them. Isolation teaches them independence. The one is here to break patterns, family patterns, generational cycles, limiting beliefs. They are not meant to blend in. They are meant to stand firm. When they awaken, they become catalysts for change in others. The third is the two on the hands, matching or mirrored markings that appear on both palms. This is the rarest type. The two represents balance between worlds, material and spiritual, masculine and feminine, strength and compassion. These individuals often feel pulled in two directions throughout life. They struggle with duality until they learn integration. Once aligned, they become bridges, healers, connectors. Their presence alone brings harmony into chaotic spaces. If you carry one of these signs, understand this. It is not there by accident. It is an invitation, a call, a reminder that something greater is waiting for you. Not fame, not power, but awakening. You are not marked to sleep through life. You are marked to remember. And perhaps the reason you are reading this now is simple. The time to awaken is no longer coming. It is here.
Awakening, however, is not always gentle. For many chosen ones, it begins with disruption. The half moon may experience seasons of deep emotional intensity, relationships that shake them, losses that open their heart wider than they thought possible. They often feel misunderstood, as if their depth is too much for a world that moves too fast. But this sensitivity is not weakness, it is training. Life refines their perception until they can distinguish fear from intuition, illusion from truth. When the half moon finally trusts their inner voice, it becomes their compass. The one, on the other hand, awakens through confrontation. Their life path frequently includes responsibility at a young age. They are pushed into leadership without asking for it. They may feel alone in rooms full of people, sensing that their mind works differently. Doubt follows them like a shadow. Am I too much, too intense, too different? Yet this tension is what forges their authority. The one must learn that standing alone does not mean being abandoned. It means being prepared to walk ahead. And then there are the two on the hands. Their awakening feels like an internal war at first. One side of them seeks security, the other seeks transcendence. One side wants simplicity, the other longs for meaning beyond the visible. They may struggle with indecision or feel split between identities. But once they accept that both forces belong within them, a powerful integration happens. They stop choosing sides and begin embodying wholeness. This is when their influence becomes magnetic. People feel safe around them because they have made peace with their own duality. No matter the type, every chosen one shares a common thread. They cannot ignore the pull forever. The signs on their hands become mirrors. Every setback becomes symbolic. Every coincidence feels intentional. They begin to see patterns. They begin to question more deeply. They begin to realize that survival was never the final goal. The invitation is clear. The half moon must trust what they feel. The one must embrace what they lead. The two must harmonize what they hold. These marks are not decorations. They are reminders etched into your very being. And if you are beginning to recognize yourself in these descriptions, understand this. Awakening does not require you to become someone else. It requires you to become fully who you already are.
Becoming who you already are sounds simple, but for a chosen one, it is the most demanding journey of all. Because to become fully yourself, you must unlearn every version of you that was shaped by fear, approval, or survival. The half moon must release the need to be understood by everyone. Their path is not about explaining their depth to those who cannot feel it. It is about honoring their emotional intelligence as sacred. When they stop shrinking their sensitivity, it transforms into discernment. They begin to sense which environments nourish them and which drain them. They realize their intuition is not imagination, it is perception refined by experience. And when they finally trust it without apology, they step into quiet spiritual authority. The one must let go of the pressure to prove themselves. For so long, they may have equated worth with achievement. They may have believed that strength means never showing vulnerability. But true leadership for the one begins the moment they allow themselves to be human. Their mark was never about domination, it was about direction. When they align their ambition with purpose rather than ego, others follow naturally, not because they demand it, but because they embody clarity. The two on the hands must stop seeing their internal contrast as a flaw. Their ability to hold paradox is their greatest gift. They can be logical and intuitive, strong and gentle, grounded and visionary. When they stop trying to simplify themselves for comfort, they become living bridges between extremes. They bring reconciliation where there was division. They speak to both the practical and the spiritual without conflict. At some point, every chosen one faces a moment of decision. Continue living unconsciously or accept the responsibility of awareness. Because awakening is not about superiority, it is about accountability. Once you see, you cannot pretend you do not see. Once you feel, you cannot numb yourself the same way. The signs on your hands are silent teachers. They do not shout, they wait. They wait for you to notice. They wait for you to ask deeper questions. They wait for you to step forward. And when you finally do, life begins to respond differently. Synchronicities increase, opportunities align. Certain people drift away while others arrive with purpose. It may feel destabilizing at first, but it is alignment taking shape. You were never marked to fit inside ordinary expectations. You were marked to remember your design. And the moment you accept that, the path ahead stops feeling random. It begins to feel intentional.
When life begins to feel intentional, something shifts inside you. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and begin asking, "What is this shaping within me?" That question alone separates those who remain asleep from those who are awakening. For the half moon, intentional living means honoring cycles. Just like the moon itself, they are not meant to shine at full intensity every day. There will be phases of retreat, reflection, and silence. These are not setbacks, they are recalibrations. When the half moon stops resisting their need for solitude, their clarity sharpens. Their dreams become messages, their emotions become guidance. They begin to understand that their depth was never meant for shallow spaces. For the one, intention reveals discipline. Not the harsh discipline of self-criticism, but the steady discipline of alignment. They start choosing what strengthens them instead of what distracts them. They become protective of their energy, their time, their focus. And slowly, their path becomes less chaotic. The obstacles that once felt like punishment are revealed as preparation. The one realizes they were never fighting against life, they were being trained by it. For the two on the hands, intention brings integration into action. They stop swinging between extremes and begin living from center. Their relationships improve because they no longer project their inner conflict on others. Their decisions become clearer because they consult both reason and intuition. They discover that balance is not passive, it is powerful. It requires awareness every day. At this stage, something else becomes evident. Not everyone will understand your transformation. Some will call you distant, others will say you have changed. And they are right, you have. But change is not betrayal, it is growth.
Every chosen one must accept that awakening often creates separation before it creates connection. You outgrow certain conversations, you release certain roles, you stop performing versions of yourself that kept others comfortable but kept you small. This is where courage is required, because once you recognize the invitation, you cannot unknow it. The marks on your hands are not predictions of an easy life, they are confirmations of a meaningful one, and meaning demands participation. The half moon must trust, the one must lead, the two must harmonize. But above all, each must choose consciously. Awakening is not a single moment, it is a series of decisions to listen, to align, to evolve. And with every decision, you move closer to the truth that has always been quietly waiting within you.
And the closer you move toward that truth, the more you begin to understand that being a chosen one is not about being elevated above others, it is about being entrusted with awareness. Awareness of patterns, awareness of energy, awareness of consequence. The half moon starts to see how emotions ripple through every space. They recognize that what they feel is often larger than themselves. They can enter a room and immediately sense tension, joy, dishonesty, or sincerity. At first, this ability overwhelms them, but with maturity, they learn boundaries. They understand that empathy does not mean absorption. They can care deeply without carrying what is not theirs. This is when their gift becomes sustainable instead of draining. The one begins to recognize influence. Words spoken casually begin to move people. Decisions create visible impact. They realize leadership is not about control, it is about responsibility. Every action becomes intentional because they understand that others are watching, learning, mirroring. When the one aligns with integrity, their presence becomes stabilizing. They do not need to announce authority, it is felt. The two on the hands discover the power of neutrality. They can listen without immediate judgment. They can see both sides without losing their own stance. In a divided world, this becomes rare and necessary. Their balanced perception allows them to mediate conflict and restore perspective. They learn that holding space is sometimes more transformative than giving advice. But here is the deeper layer many do not speak about. Awakening also reveals shadow. The half moon must confront emotional illusions. The one must confront ego. The two must confront indecision. Each mark carries both potential and test. This is why not everyone who is marked awakens fully. Some resist the responsibility. Some fear the isolation that growth can bring. Some cling to comfort rather than expansion. Yet the invitation remains. It does not expire. It waits patiently for your readiness. There will be moments when you question everything, your path, your identity, your purpose. That questioning is not regression. It is refinement. Just as metal is purified through fire, consciousness is clarified through challenge. The marks on your hands are silent witnesses to your journey. They do not force you. They do not demand perfection. They simply remind you that there is more within you than routine survival. When you begin to illuminate the world in your own way, you realize something profound. Your power was never meant to be loud. It was meant to be steady. The half moon shines through subtle influence. They may never stand on grand stages, yet their presence changes atmospheres. A single conversation with them can awaken clarity in someone who has been lost for years. Their strength is not in force, but in resonance. They mirror truth back to others gently, allowing people to see themselves more clearly. Over time, they understand that their quiet nature is not invisibility, it is refinement. The one, once restless and driven, learns the difference between ambition and assignment. Not every opportunity is meant to be seized. Not every battle is meant to be fought. Discernment becomes their greatest skill. They begin to ask, does this align with who I am becoming? And if the answer is no, they walk away without guilt. This is maturity. This is awakened leadership. The one stops proving and starts embodying. The two on the hands come into their most powerful expression when they embrace stillness. For years, they may have oscillated between extremes, overthinking and overfeeling, action and hesitation. But awakening teaches them rhythm.
They move when movement is needed. They pause when reflection is required. Their balance becomes contagious. Others feel calmer simply being near them. They become living reminders that integration is possible. Yet with greater awareness comes greater sensitivity to misalignment. You may find that environments you once tolerated now feel heavy. Conversations that once entertained you now feel empty. This is not judgment, it is growth recalibrating your standards. Some relationships will fall away, not because you failed, but because your frequency changed. This can feel lonely at first. The chosen path often includes seasons of solitude. But solitude is not punishment, it is preparation. In quiet spaces, your clarity deepens, your direction strengthens. You begin to trust yourself in ways you never did before. You stop seeking constant validation. You stop ignoring your inner signals. You stop dimming your perception to fit comfort zones. The signs on your hands were never about predicting the future. They were about awakening consciousness in the present. They are reminders that your existence carries design, not randomness. And as you continue forward, you understand this final truth. Being chosen is not about being selected above others. It is about choosing yourself, again and again, every time life invites you to rise higher than your old limitations. That choice, repeated consistently, is what transforms a mark into a mission.
Consciousness changes everything. It changes how you interpret silence. It changes how you respond to conflict. It changes how you see yourself in the mirror. Before awakening, life feels reactive. You respond based on habit, fear, or expectation. After awakening, there is space between stimulus and response. In that space, you choose, and that choice is power. The half moon begins to recognize emotional triggers as invitations to heal. Instead of drowning in feelings, they observe them. Why did this affect me? Becomes a doorway to deeper understanding. They stop romanticizing pain and start transforming it. Their compassion becomes wiser. They no longer try to save everyone. They learn that protecting their peace is also an act of love. The one begins to release control. For so long, strength meant gripping tightly, managing outcomes, anticipating threats, staying 10 steps ahead. But awakening teaches surrender without weakness. They learn that leadership does not require constant tension. Sometimes the strongest move is trust. Trust in timing, trust in preparation, trust in unseen orchestration. Their shoulders feel lighter because they are no longer carrying what was never solely theirs. The two on the hands discover clarity in stillness. Meditation, reflection, quiet walks, these become sacred practices. In silence, their dual nature harmonizes naturally. They stop over-identifying with either side. They are not just thinker or feeler, warrior or healer. They are integrated. This wholeness makes them less reactive and more responsive. Balanced people do not need to prove balance. They embody it. As consciousness expands, you also begin to see through illusion. You notice manipulation more quickly. You recognize superficial praise. You sense misalignment before it becomes damage. This awareness is not cynicism. It is discernment. And discernment protects destiny. There will still be challenges. Being awakened does not eliminate hardship. It transforms how you walk through it. Storms may come, but they do not dismantle you the same way. You bend without breaking. You pause without quitting. You reflect without collapsing. The marks on your hands remain what they have always been, symbols. But now you understand their deeper meaning. They were never promises of an easy path. They were confirmations of inner capacity.
Becoming one does not happen all at once. It is a gradual unfolding, a layering of awareness over years of choices, reflection, and experience. You begin to notice patterns that once seemed random, coincidences that now feel intentional, people and events arriving as if orchestrated. Life itself becomes a mirror of your inner state. The half-moon realizes that their gift is subtle influence, not overt force. They move through the world with a quiet sensitivity that others can feel but rarely name. Their presence soothes, their insight illuminates, and their emotional depth becomes a source of guidance for those who are ready to receive it. They no longer fear feeling too much. Instead, they honor the currents of intuition as sacred signals. Their awareness becomes a compass, pointing them toward environments, relationships, and experiences that align with their soul's growth. The One understands that true strength is no longer measured by struggle or external validation. Their awakening teaches them patience and discernment. Leadership is now an act of service rather than self-promotion. The challenges they face are no longer obstacles, but tests of integrity, endurance, and clarity. They move decisively, aware of the ripple effect of their actions, yet free from the need to control outcomes. Influence becomes a natural consequence of alignment, not a goal to be forced. The Two on the hands comes into the power of integration. Where once there was tension between opposing forces within, now there is harmony. They honor both intellect and intuition, action and reflection, strength and compassion. Their equilibrium becomes contagious, and those around them feel steadier simply in their presence. They no longer see complexity as a burden, but as a source of profound insight. Through this inner balance, they become mediators, bridges, and guides, able to navigate duality with grace and awareness. Yet being a chosen one is not merely about power or insight, it is about responsibility. Awakening demands that you act consciously, that you respond rather than react, that you honor the signs you were given. Every choice, no matter how small, carries weight. Every reflection, every pause, every decision contributes to the unfolding of your purpose. The half moon, the one, the two, they are all invitations to step fully into consciousness. Their marks are reminders that you are capable of more than survival. You are capable of awakening, alignment, and transformation. They tell you that the world is not simply something to navigate, it is something to engage with deeply, intentionally, and wisely. And the truth becomes undeniable. The awakening was never about becoming extraordinary. It was about becoming conscious. It was about remembering who you were always meant to be. It was about stepping into the quiet, persistent power that has been within you all along.
As you continue to awaken, you notice that life begins to test you differently. Not in random or cruel ways, but in ways that shape depth, resilience, and clarity. The challenges you face are no longer obstacles to escape. They are invitations to refine your consciousness. Every encounter, every decision, every emotional surge becomes a lesson tailored to your soul's growth. The half moon learns to embrace the ebb and flow of their energy. They recognize that periods of retreat are not failure, they are preparation. Silence becomes sacred. Reflection becomes a guide. Emotional intensity, once feared or suppressed, transforms into insight. The half moon begins to see that their empathy is not a vulnerability, it is a tool for perceiving truth. They can feel the undercurrents of situations before words are spoken. They can sense intentions, detect shifts, and intuitively navigate spaces that others cannot. In this awareness, their quiet power grows steadily, like a moon waxing in secret. The one discovers the strength in stillness. Once driven by ambition, validation, and the pressure to perform, they now learn that discernment is their greatest ally. Not every opportunity aligns with purpose. Not every voice deserves attention. Leadership becomes an act of conscious alignment rather than ego-driven action. Challenges are not threats, but confirmations of readiness. Every test reinforces endurance. Every obstacle strengthens clarity. The one begins to understand that influence does not come from force. It comes from integrity, presence, and unwavering alignment with truth. The two on the hands finds mastery in integration. Where duality once felt like conflict, now it becomes harmony. They navigate extremes without losing balance, holding both mind and heart, logic and intuition, strength and compassion. This inner synthesis allows them to mediate, heal, and guide. Their presence naturally stabilizes chaos around them, and others sense the centeredness they embody. Their dual nature, once a source of internal friction, becomes their most distinctive strength. Yet the path of the chosen one is never solitary. With greater consciousness comes heightened sensitivity to misalignment, within self, within relationships, within environments. You notice energies that no longer serve you. You recognize patterns that no longer belong. This often requires courage to release what is familiar, even when it feels safe, to walk away from old attachments, to choose alignment over comfort.